but we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the stream. It is a Sunday afternoon. It's 1 p.m. and it is time to do some Q&A. How's the stream sound? Oh yeah, it sounds good. Welcome, James Weber. First time you made a live stream. Thank you. Couldn't have gotten it FPV without you. Thank you so much. Oh, what's up, Peter Dallas? What's up, Popular Mechanics? How's everybody doing today? I am very glad to be here. I'm getting the most out of my new camera. It's not a new camera, it's just my GoPro. But I figured since I had a GoPro laying around, I would stick it up in the ceiling. And now I can feel like Ken Heron. Ken Heron has a great studio setup. Kind of jelly of his setup. You guys can see how long it's been since I vacuumed my carpet. Yikes! When people come over, not that they come over all the time, but when they come over, a lot of times they're surprised at how small this room is. In reality, it looks a lot bigger on stream. What do you think? Does it look big? Probably looks bigger than it actually is. It's that wide angle lens, baby. I'm so glad y'all are here. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad I'm here. We're going to answer some questions during the stream. I will be taking your questions. If you're new to the stream, welcome to the stream. I don't do gaming. I don't show my boobs. But what I do is answer your questions, and I am going to be answering your questions. But before we do that, let's just get into the stream a little bit. And one thing I want to do, hey, Bloods FPV is here. Look, Bloods, look what I have. It's out of focus, and I'm not going to mess with my camera's focus on stream. But look at this. Look what I built yesterday. Chris Bloods is the designer of this frame. This is the Halo RC Osiris. And I'm giving it a try. I am gonna find out whether the extra weight of the air unit is worth it to me. And in order to do that, I'm going to build this is a Vista build. You can get the air unit into this, but it's a bit of a struggle. It gets real tight. I think the air unit has to go in the, sorry about that. The air unit has to go in the middle, and then the FC has to go in the back. And it's like, I don't know about that, but I built it. This is a great Vista antenna mount. What are you talking about, dude? I used the regular Unify mount. And look what's on the back of here. Immersion RC Ghost. Yes, sir. I had some Ghost footage up this week. If you check my channel, the 3 packs a day I posted this week, some people were like, why is no one posting actual flight video of Ghost? So I did. Chris, I gotta say, the Halo RC, now this is just a free plug, but what are you gonna do? I'm gonna plug this briefly because I am actually super impressed. And after building the frame, I got more impressed with it. Wait a second, that's not, oh no, I've messed it up. Oh, the left screen was meant for something else. Hold on. Oh my God, hang on, there we go. I am super impressed with this frame. It's a really neat, it's a really well-designed frame. And the 3D printed parts on it are, he sent me all the different 3D printed parts. I'm super impressed. So thank you for sending that. It's at least going to get some flight time. So, am I willing to use Ghost instead of other protocols? Happy flying FPV. It remains to be seen. I mean, Crossfire is still my go-to. Ghost is brand new. It's not even in beta flight yet, but Sir Clean FPV wants to know if I'm going to make more videos about sub 250 gram quads. Well, that's interesting. Some stuff that I'm banging my mic all the time today. Some stuff that's coming out on my channel this week will be this guy. This is the Beta FPV 95X with a naked GoPro and an Insta360 Go. Where's my Insta360? So we'll be doing a comparison of that this week. That's sub 250, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, so that's coming. Sub 250. I hear sub 250 is the wave of the future. Because of regulation in the U.S., I'm just going to go la 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 and pretend that's not happening. Let's do some news. Revise wants to know, any guess how quickly we'll see Betaflight integration of Ghost? Tony Cake has a custom build of Betaflight that is currently being tested, as far as I know. And I think he may have submitted drivers. It's coming. If you have Ghost, you can right now download. Maybe that's only for pre-testers. It may not be publicly available. It exists. You can download a custom build of Ghost, of Betaflight 4.2 with Ghost in it. As for when it'll be an official Ghost integration, I don't know, maybe Betaflight 4.3, but I would hope we wouldn't have to wait that long. Anyway, let's do some news. I'm going to have to clean up my, oh boy, left monitor. Oh boy, look at that. I've messed it all up. Hang on. Turn. Let's just do this. Left monitor. Copy. Hang on, guys. I have copy. Paste. But now it's not sized right. See, I screwed it up. Is this going to screw it up too? Go there. We'll go there. We need this to be off. Oh my God, I made this whole scene. Oh, and there. Wait a minute. Why are you not? Oh boy. Wow. Go there. What the dickens are you doing? Go over there. Okay, there we go. Oh my goodness. That's what I get. Why are you? Hold on. Super professional. Dr. Disrespect would be so disappointed in me right now. Oh my God, I've almost got it. Oh, there we go. Let's do some news. Wow. The dickens. Get in there. It's the wrong size. I have too many sources. Sorry, guys. Let's just pretend that didn't happen. News. Here's news. We're going to do some news of the day, news of the week. Yeah, we're going to do some news. Ring Ring's latest security camera is a drone that flies around your house. That's right. There's a little tiny whoop that connects to your Ring's system, and you can access the frickin' thing and fly it around your house with a camera. Let's watch this video. Let's watch this video. Oh my god, I'm still effed up, aren't I? There we go. No! Oh my goodness gracious. There we go. Yeah. This dude was breaking into your house, and you were like, hey, whoa, whoa. Hey, somebody's breaking into my house. Send the drones. What? Oh, hey, oh, my Ring is going off? Somebody's breaking into my house? What the hell? Hang on a second. Hey, who are you? Who are you breaking into my house? Look at this. That guy's he's wearing baggy pants and a hoodie. You know he's a bad guy. Oh, what the fuck is that thing? Oh, apologize, parents, for cussing. What? A drone? Oh, man, I'm out of here, dude. Oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, what's the quad gonna do? Oh, my goodness. What is it gonna do? Oh, hey. I want a remake of Home Alone where the Kevin has the freaking Ring quad. What are you gonna do? Also, do you have doors in your house? Do you have doors that close? Because okay, so news of the week. That's I got to tell you, that's the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen, but I kind of want it. I don't even have a Ring system, but I kind of want it. Anyway. All right. What else do we got? Liftoff. Liftoff has come out. This is a all right, shut up. The 130, it released with a new physics update. And then there were some bugs and they pulled it back. And I'm not sure if they've even re-released it yet. But if you have Liftoff, if you have a Liftoff license, definitely check it out. Because the new physics are even better than before. And there's other interesting things. Race AI opponents. Updated physics. This is the big one. Updated physics. Replay feature. It's updated physics that are the big ones, though. So check out Liftoff. If they've re-released it after. There were a couple bugs with just not related to the physics, just levels not loading and stuff. So definitely check that out. XFlip goggles. News about them. What are the XFlip goggles? We have talked about these in the past, and I have speculated, and Skadoosh has confirmed, for what that's worth, which is something, that XFlip is actually Top Sky, who has made some really, really poor FPV goggles in the past. People are still talking about the drone. Yeah, he just smashed it out of the air with a baseball bat, and he's going to be gone before you get home. Oh, good. You're using the drone. I guess I know you're not home. Yeah. Yeah. So these XFlip goggles got a couple good reviews. Drone Camp RC gave them a good review. UAV Futures gave them a pretty good review. And RC Model Reviews gave them a terrible review. And in addition, Painless 360 has given them a bad review. Painless 360 was incredibly kind. Reviewing, he said a lot of positive things about them, but then that there were some deal breaker negative things, and I probably would have been so turned off by the deal breaker negatives that I would have just been like, F these goggles. But just confirming my opinion that no one should buy these goggles. Do not buy these goggles is my official opinion. I don't know if I'm going to make a video about that, but that's my recommendation. So you guys know about the Flywoo. The Flywoo Explorer LR, the 4-inch long range from Flywoo, and I will be reviewing that this week. But Catalyst Machine Works has decided to get in the game with a Catalyst Machine Works They're calling it the Shocker. You can look that up on the internet if you want to know what that is. FPV Attitude says Albert Kim is switching to the newest Eachine goggles. What do you think of that? My Eachine EV300Os are in the mail. But if you already own HDO2s, I don't know why you would switch to the Eachines. Maybe they're amazing. I hope the EV300Os are good. Eachine has always been able to make a good goggle. The EV200Ds were not great. They had latency problems. Other than the latency problems, they were amazing. So, no, $66 does not include motors, Revise. $66 does not include motors. The Shocker 4-inch long range. So they're making one of those. Knowing Catalyst Machine Works, it'll be pretty freaking good. They make good stuff. In addition, iFlight has announced their entry into the field, the iFlight Chimera. And they will be sending that to me. I will be getting that to compare to the Flywoo. The big weakness of the Flywoo that people have said is that the Flywoo uses soft serial for the OSD connection, and that causes the OSD to lock up on the Flywoo if you have the Vista. So, interesting. He says the SkyZones fit his face better than the HDO2. There you go. So I'm looking forward to this. I think I've also got a GEP RC, whatever the GEP RC 4-inch long range coming. So I'm looking forward to that. Last news. TBS Crossfire Nano. I think we might have talked about this last week, but TBS Crossfire Nano is a nano version of the Crossfire module for your, if you have an X-Lite, you can use it. So that's come out. Oh, it's currently out of stock, but it does exist, so. There you go. So, that is the news of the day. Well, now I have to put my scene back together. Revise, I don't know that everybody's running DJI long range. But a lot of people are doing... I mean, 5.8 can go pretty far if you have enough output power, but... yeah. Hey, Chris W. What are you plugging somebody else's channel in my live stream? I mean, you could just message me and I'll help you. I mean, I'm not opposed to get people getting help however they want to get help. Just don't know why you're spamming my live stream with somebody else's channel. I mean, a lot of people will not get help on a live stream just because that's the nature of a live stream. For every question that gets answered, 50 go by that don't get answered. But my policy is always that I help everybody. So if you need help and you don't get it in the live stream, feel free to email me or email somebody else. It's up to you, but I'd rather see... Well, that's nice. That's nice for him. Skadoosh says, what's the obsession with long range? It's pretty boring. I don't know, man. We're going to find out. All right. Let me get this, see if I got this scene set up correctly. No, not this scene. Hang on. It's, this is off, and this is on. And... this is on. There we go. I have some guests with me on this live stream. Let me see here. There we go. Now they're off mute. This is Jacob Howard and McGregor Card from FPV Unlocked. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Doing well.
I invited you guys here because if you guys in the chat watched my channel this week, I released a what do you call it? A plug? I released a you know, where somebody says something is good, a
promo.
A promo?
I think we can go with that.
No, sponsorship's the other way. I'm completely blanking on the word. An endorsement. That's it. I released an endorsement. That's the word I'm looking for. I released an endorsement for your course at FPV Unlocked. And I've got a link to it down there in the video description, which people can watch after the live stream if they want to. But basically saying you guys put together the kind of course that I used to develop courses like professionally for like 10 years, not about FPV, but I would make slide decks. I loved making slide decks, if you can believe that. This was before video was really a thing. So I would make slide decks, and then I would go deliver the course in a classroom, and other people would deliver the course. And I was like, well, why don't we do that for FPV? And for like 2 years, I've been kind of wanting to do it and not doing it. And then you guys did it, and it's pretty damn good. And so I was like, well, okay. Because there are some people who learn better from an organized course, and a lot of people who learn better via YouTube, especially because we're here on YouTube. But here's why I invited these guys here today, because you guys are supposed to be like experts. You're holding out your shingle, and you're like, we are smart guys who will teach you about FPV. And I'm like, well, get in the ring, you know? So I want you guys to come help answer questions during the live stream. We're just going to do the same Q&A we always do, but with you guys as well. So
that sounds great.
Okay. So, but before we do that, before we start taking questions, and we will start taking questions, will you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to develop the course? Take like 3 minutes and just let the people know who you are.
Yeah. So I'm Jacob Howard. This is McGregor card over here, I think, is where it'll show up. And yeah, so we both got into FPV. McGregor got into it about a decade ago, before, like, things even existed half the time. And he was there really working with on the ground with FPV when it first started developing. And so what we started doing just within earlier this year is we looked at the only way you can really get into FPV is through just hundreds and hundreds of hours of research. And for a lot of people, they don't have that time. They don't have the experience to really do that. And so we decided, let's make a course out of it. Let's make something to where people can jump into it and learn FPV from beginning to pro, all in one area. So we started working on the course, started working with McGregor and a few other editors and FPV pilots. And we started, writing out all the content and making a course. And then we started working with other brands and stuff like Race Day Quads and other places like that to start promoting it and show people that there is a option to get into FPV that's a little more organized and doesn't have the the hundreds of hours of research that you have to go into and hundreds of dollars in mistakes that most people make when they're starting out. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to just get something out of the way right here at the beginning of the stream, and then we're going to just move on. Wrong Way FPV says, not going to pay for something I can get for free on YouTube. That's dumb. I totally agree. If you feel like you can get the knowledge you need for free on YouTube, there is no compelling reason for you to pay for it. There are people out there who feel like that having somebody else condense it all down, put it in the right order, and feed it to you through a tube is worth paying for. And if you're not that person, no big deal, because we're not here to plug the course. I mean, obviously we're a little bit here to plug the course. That's why the URL is down below these guys' face. We're just here to answer questions. That's all we're here to do, Okay, moving on. So let's start taking some questions, and I'm going to get a couple of super chats out of the way, see if there are any questions in them. A Day at the Range, thank you for $5. We're taking wedding pictures today. Your one wedding? I hope not. I mean, if it is, congratulations. Peter Dallas, thanks for a $10 super chat. Peter says, I've been downgrading my ISRM firmware each time I want to fly my Mobula 6 with my Tyrannus. Is buying the XJT Lite module a good solution if I want to keep using Access 2.0 with my other RXSRs? All right. Well, there's the first one. What do you think of that question? What do you guys have?
Let's see.
So
we have to review the question.
He's got
that question.
No problem. It's in the. Oh, you guys don't have the super chats. Can you see the super chats pulled out?
I scrolled up.
So he's got a Tyrannus. It's a Tyrannus with Access, and he's got access. He's got the ISRM 2.0 firmware or 2.1, which prevents him from binding to his Mobula 6 because it's an SPI receiver, and it is not supported with Access 2.1. So he's been flashing firmware back and forth. He wants to know if he should buy the XJT module instead so he can do both. That's a tough one for the first one, really throwing you in the deep end there.
Yeah. To my knowledge, I would say, yeah, get the XJT module.
Yeah.
The I wasn't super happy about the whole access thing.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I mean, on the one hand, flashing back and forth, I guess, is not the end of the world because you can do that just from your SD card. You could just flash it real quick, but it sounds like a real pain in the butt to rebind it and everything. I would just get the XJT module, at least be able to do both.
Yep.
Yep. Betaflight is actually supposed to be getting the ability to bind to, and because the SPI receiver could be updated to do the new protocol, but I don't know a time frame for that. So, all right, Peter Dallas, that's the answer. Get an XJT Lite module. It is a good solution. Thank you very much. What is the best action camera for the money? Asks Simon Kiergaard. I'm sure I've mispronounced your name, Simon. What is the best action camera for the money? What do you guys think?
So I'll take that one because videography is really my thing. That's where I started, and that's why I started FPV. So we just bought the GoPro Hero 9 to test it out against the GoPro Hero 7. We're still running some tests. For the action cam, if you're looking just at quality for price, not considering like weight or different things like that that may impede some of your flight options or something like that, between the 7 and the 8, really good options. The Hero 9, once again, haven't tested it out enough to really say for sure if it's worth the different price and stuff, because now you can start getting, you know, a lower price for like the Hero 7s and stuff like that. I think the Hero 7 has quite a few different firmware issues that I'm not a fan of. I know most of mine like will turn off randomly or stuff like that. But as far as the quality for what you get, the Hero 7, the Hero 8, I really think that's the best way to kind of go, because you get that really good value in a small form. The Hero 9, I think, is going to be a good contender, but we haven't really tested that out as much as we'd like to at this point. But really, when it comes down to it, for an action cam and stuff like that, it's knowing what the camera can do. There's a lot of times you can go fly with a Hero 4 and get the same kind of quality footage that some people are getting from the Hero 9, because it's a lot about the settings and stuff that you need to do to really pay attention to how your video and your footage is going to look. So I would recommend the Hero 7 or the Hero 8, black, not the silver. So. Oh,
definitely the black. You want that super view. I think that you could even, I mean, you can get refurbished Hero 7s for about $200 right now, maybe a little cheaper, and refurbished Hero 6s, maybe even around 150. It just depends on the refurbs, kind of come and go, and I feel like that's a great deal. The Hero 8 is going to give you a little better image quality. I'm not really sure why. I think it uses the same sensor, but just seems like it gives better, maybe higher bit rate. But the 6 or the 7 is a real sweet spot if you can get a refurb, I think. The 8 is, I think it's the 9 is really just for like the real early adopters or the people who just absolutely need that 5K.
Yeah.
But I'm always a generation behind on GoPros. I still only have one 8 and I don't actually fly it. I shoot all my stuff on 7s and sessions.
Yeah, we've been shooting with the Hero 7 for the last how long, and we didn't really see enough of a difference between the Hero 7 and the Hero 8 if you're flying and you know what to do with the camera to really, justify having to sell all our old equipment. So now with the Hero 9, obviously we want to test that out. So.
What about the Caddx or the Runcam? Simon asks. I mean, where do they come in at around $100?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what you want to do with it. If you're looking for HD quality, you want to make YouTube videos, or you just want to get footage for your own personal uses. I used a session for a long time and thought it was great. And then I got the 7 and was kind of blown away. But with the Runcams and stuff, it just depends on what you're looking for. If you want, I mean, they do a good job.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing with the Runcam and the Caddx is the build quality. GoPro, I mean, that's not to say that they have bad build quality, but GoPros are just so bulletproof all the time. They're very difficult to destroy, although we do manage it. Whereas Caddx and Runcam, I think Caddx is a little worse than Runcam, is my just gut feeling from kind of having my ear to the ground. They're just a little more likely to die or be DOA in a crash, whereas GoPro, I feel like $100 for a Caddx or a Runcam, or maybe $150 or $200 for a refurb GoPro, I feel like I would pay the extra, even though it's double the amount, especially if you can get it with insurance of some kind. I feel like that's good support. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. The GoPro is definitely a good one to go for. And once again, it's that price difference. If you want to create something that people are really going to enjoy watching and stuff, then you do want something that's going to be a little better. And a Runcam or a CAT-X, it's not going to deliver on that same kind of quality that you can really work with in the editing room or stuff like that. And I know for a lot of people, that's not as much of a concern because they're posting just, videos for their friends and family and stuff. But that's where it all comes down to. If you want an action cam, if you're going to spend the money, you might as well spend a little bit more to get something that's a little more future-proof and, like you said, bulletproof.
Yeah. I feel like the image quality is your concern. Well, so Richard Warwick says, I'm getting great footage with my Runcam 5 and an ND filter. I think the Runcam 5 Orange looks nice. It does look nice. I mean, I think the tweakability of the GoPro gives it an edge. But if all you're going to do is just push record and go, you can get okay results from a Runcam 5. You get about the same results from a GoPro. But once you start wanting to tweak the image, do things like set the ISO, maybe lock the shutter speed, change the color temperature, or GoPro has ProTune Flat. And I think ProTune Flat and SuperView are the two features of GoPros that put it over the edge for me. That's just my take on it. So...
Yeah, and it really does come down to what you want out of the camera. So, and what you can do with it. So,
Zorro is in the chat. I got to say thank you to Zorro. Zorro's been posting some amazing Insta360 Go footage over on his YouTube channel and just doing some really... I look at the edits that Zorro puts up. People ask me, how do you put out so many videos? And it's just like, well, I just got a workflow I've developed and I just can do it really efficiently. And I look at the edits Zorro puts out. And I'm like, that would take me 20 hours to do that intro, and he just cracks them out. He's been putting up a lot of cool flights with the Insta360 Go, which I've been playing with. He gave me a tip on a feature that it had that I didn't know it had. So thank you, Zorro. He's in the chat right now. Drew Graham says, should I return my Insta360 Go for a GoPro? Drew, I have been comparing these two side by side all this week. And I really feel, I'm going to spoil my review a little bit. I really feel like they fit a different need. The Insta360 Go is close to the same weight of a naked GoPro. If you want a full-size GoPro, not a naked GoPro, now they're really just in two totally different ballparks. The GoPro is much heavier, durable, better image quality. The Insta360 Go is much lighter. But if you're comparing a naked GoPro to a decased GoPro to the Insta360, this is going to be more durable, but the GoPro is going to give you better image quality and better ability to tweak. So, Drew Graham, the feature was the ability to keyframe and like do rolls and stuff in the Game of Drones gives a $2 super chat and asks, how is the live support with your course? And I don't want to spend too much of the live stream plugging the course because we're here to provide value, but on the other hand, he did give a $2 super chat and ask the question. So how is the live support with your course?
So we try to answer people as quickly as possible. We have a couple different people that are mentors in the course, McGregor especially, and he's really quick about getting back to things. We have email, we have chat, we have Facebook group, and we just get back to people as quickly as we can. So, and we also have like comments on the video, so people will comment on that. And yeah, it really is just, we're there every second we can to help people out.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You guys have the Facebook group as well.
Yes.
Yep. That's going to, I found that being able, when I first started, there was a time when I made a point of answering every comment on every one of my videos. I would just reply, even if they didn't ask a question, I'd just be like, I just wanted people to know that I was there. And I remember the time when I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. So I started only responding to actual questions. If somebody just said, hey, good video, I would just be like, thank you. I wouldn't even respond just because I didn't have time. And, eventually you just get overwhelmed. You got to hire more people. So I hope you guys get to that point.
Me too.
Hope so.
How many grams are the naked GoPros? Asks Raindog. I think it's Raindog. The parts by themselves are like 18 grams. Then you put it in a case and it's about 20 grams. Daniel, I never responded to you. Daniel, I mean, I don't know what question you asked or why I didn't answer. If you leave a question on YouTube, especially if it's an old video, I probably won't see it. YouTube doesn't show me. There's a place I can go to see all my YouTube comments in chronological order, but for old videos, YouTube often just doesn't show them. So I may never even have seen your question. You're always welcome to email me, and I respond to almost 100% of my emails. Again, if you just send me an email and you're like, hey, there's this new drone, just thought you should see it, I may not respond because you're not asking me a question. But if you have a question, you can always email me or you can message me on Facebook. Those are the two places where I also, my Discord server, of course, I try to make 100%. Speaking of my Discord server, by the way, can I just show you guys? Here's what I got. Here's what I got going on. In case you don't know, I am going to be answering your question here. Ooh, I like this question from Celise FPV. I'm going to get that in 1 second. I got my patrons right up here. This is the Discord server. My patrons up here in the Discord server paying attention and hanging out amongst themselves. And down here are the super chats. If you guys want to make sure I get to your question, or you got a question for the guys from FPV Unlocked, hit the $ down here, leave a super chat, and we'll get to it. So the question I want to get is this question from Celise FPV. How do you feel about the 360 cam with the ability to edit from different angles and even use 2 shots from the same time frame? Let me throw that over to these guys at FPV Unlocked. You guys do a lot of 360 work? You done any of that?
So we haven't done a lot of it as far as FPV, but I have been looking a lot into it just in general. And the ability to use especially 2 different kind of keyframes, 2 different angles, that is super, super cool. I watched the video you just released, Joshua, right before our video earlier this week. And it is amazing, the perspective you can see from there versus what the drone is actually doing. I think there is definitely a lot of potential for it for the future. I do think more work needs to be done on creating it to where it's more footage that can be used, in general. Because earlier GoPros, they had that really wide angle lens view, and it skewed the horizon and it didn't look all that professional. Now you have linear, and you have all this good stuff that GoPro's doing that makes it look really good, you just threw a normal camera on it, kind of a deal. So I think for a lot of professional jobs, it won't be as usable as we hope. Right. But I think it's going to get there more and more. And I know that guy was doing a lot of professional jobs, but for a lot of the work that can be done in that area, because that's one of the jobs I do, a 360, angle like that, the circular look it gives, won't necessarily be something a lot of clients or people would really want. But it is something that's really cool to keep introducing it, because we've found in this community, in the FPV community, the more we give attention to something, oftentimes the more that thing gets developed. Look how much FPV has changed in the last how many years. So as we continue to show different industries and stuff, our money and our love towards it, they will continue to develop that kind of a thing. And I think 360 is definitely something that's going to go that direction.
Yep. One of the things Stan said, did an interview with Stan FPV. That's the video you were referring to. He does professional shoots. One of the things he said in the interview that it actually got cut out, but he said that directors really care about resolution. They want 4K. They don't want 1080. Mm-hmm. And so there's minimal use for 360 footage in a professional shoot, that it'll usually just be little inserts, just because the 360 cam takes that whole 4K or maybe 5K resolution and spreads it over, I think it's 180 degrees. And so there's just less resolution when you zoom into a normal field of view. But the ability to get those shots is so cool. I feel like the 360 cams are mostly useful for hobbyists for that reason, or if you're trying to do something where you're getting that 360 effect and there's no other way to do it. So at least I think they're super fun, but the image quality means that it's hard. When I have a video I really want to get out, I go to a GoPro or I go to a DSLR or a camera like that. I just don't feel like I can rely on the 360 cam. I guess the exception to that might be, I've gotten some really nice looking FPV footage out of the Insta360 1R, because I can take the angle, the field of view, and make it even wider and get this not quite fisheye, maybe a little fisheye, but wider even than a GoPro. And at that point, it's so sort of zoomed out that the resolution is fine, and it actually has a really cool look that I kind of like. So I'm a fan of it. Let's see. There was a question, I didn't catch who asked it. How to repair a lifted solder pad. You lift a solder pad because maybe you're just a noob at soldering. You guys, how do you repair a lifted solder pad? What do you got?
That can be really tricky. I've dealt with that before in my professional career. If you can trace the pad back to like an adjacent pin, or if the trace goes to a capacitor or resistor, you can sometimes tack a little wire on. But the problem is the strength goes way down. Well, let's see. I would say the best thing to do is try to prevent it. When you're soldering, you don't want to put a little pressure on the copper pads. You don't want to use an excessive. Sorry, got a weird echo going on. You don't want to use an excessive amount of heat. But to repair it, yeah, you just have to look around for an adjacent part or use some sort of magnification. Try to see where the trace goes. If it goes to an IC, that can be really dangerous if you're not really good at fine soldering.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look closely, you may see that the pad goes to a trace, and you can kind of very carefully scrape back some of the solder mask over the trace.
Yeah.
And then use your continuity tester, your multimeter in continuity test mode, like you said, to find some other resistor or capacitor that trace goes to.
Yep.
And then solder directly to that. The nice thing about that is, like, some people will say solder directly to the trace. And that's tricky, because if you're so bad at soldering that no offense, if you're so bad at soldering that you lifted the pad, because if you were good at soldering, you probably wouldn't have lifted the pad. I mean, that's just, I hate to be mean, but that's just probably true. If you're so bad at soldering that you lifted the pad, you probably aren't going to successfully solder to the trace, because that's even harder. And
and oftentimes, if you get in a crash, just that mass on the trace, it won't hold up to crashes or anything.
Yeah,
because you got all that mass yanking on just that tiny little trace.
Absolutely. Now, you could have, maybe you're great at soldering. Let's take the outside case. You're great at soldering, but in a crash, you ripped off the wire and it lifted the pad. Okay, fine. Then if you do solder to the trace, you have to reinforce it, like with hot glue.
Yeah.
But like you said, the best thing to do is to trace that trace back to a component and solder the component, and that will be that'll be better. I saw some stuff, this like epoxy compound that they said you could use to repair a lifted pad. It was like, it's like a conductive epoxy that you put down.
Conductive inks and conductive epoxies that you can use. I mean, but yeah, with the amount of abuse we give to our drones, it might work, might not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it always seems iffy.
Yeah.
By the time you lift the trace, it's probably dead. But you may as well go for it, because you have nothing to lose.
Exactly. If you can repair it, you might as well give it a try and get as much life as you can out of it.
Absolutely. N3F Rain, thank you for 2 Swiss francs. Efficient motors for a 900-gram 7-inch long-range quad. I got to say, I don't have a lot of experience at 7-inch long-range, but I will say that T-Motor, didn't they just release like the F90 specifically for that? So like, I mean, I haven't used these, but all I can say is T-Motor usually makes good motors. And here's an F90 specifically for efficient long range. Like, I would probably lean that direction, you know? I mean, there's probably lots of other motors out there you could use, but this one comes to mind, and it seems like it's tailor-made for your purpose. Thank you for that super chat. Cracklin FPV, thanks for $5 in the super chat. Building out the Armatan DJI frame. Best motors and ESC I could use. Battery size, everything. Looking for 3 to 4 minute flight time. Well, 3 to 4 minute flight time should be pretty easy. I have a website, fpvknowitall.com, where I recommend all parts, motors, etc. And it has recommendations at all price points. So for motors and ESC, I mean, JB2208 motors you could use. As far as ESC, I think one of the best ESCs today is the T-Motor F55A. It's not cheap, but it is almost completely bulletproof in my experience. What do you guys think? What's a great ESC today for a 5-inch quad?
I've been using the Mambas on a couple of my builds. Gosh, I can't remember all the different brands.
Mamba's been pretty reliable for you, though?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've had pretty good luck with them.
We had one that we threw on my DJI 5-inch. What one was that? Because that's been working really well, because I can get the OSD to my DJI goggles and everything, and it does a really good job on everything. But I can't remember the name of it, what one it was. It was a little while ago that we bought it and put it on.
Striker FPV is recommending the Hobbywing X Rotor. That's another really good bulletproof one.
Yeah.
That's another good one. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, Discord. You guys have been scrolling down, but I haven't been. I've been like, why is the Discord not updating? It's because I wasn't scrolled down. Sorry, Discord, I've missed you. Eric Allen says he lifted one of the motor pads on the JB4-in-1. Can I save it? Well, we just actually answered that same question, Eric. Probably not. And the reason that the answer to that is probably not, Eric, is because a motor pad has to carry a lot of current.
Yeah.
So you really need, you can't just like solder to some tiny trace. You need like a lot of surface area. Once you lift a motor pad on an ESC, the ESC is basically done. You can replace just that one channel with an individual ESC, but a lot of people would just go ahead and replace the whole ESC. Audio Geek says Mamba FCs keep dying. I can't tell. Diatone seems to have really good build quality, but Audio Geek says flight controllers are dying. That sucks. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, that's too bad. I've had pretty good luck with mine.
Krumta is using the new F90s on his 7-inch or her 7-inch Chameleon. They're great. Currently using 1500 kV. Yeah. What are some other, let me ask the chat, what are some other good motors for a 7-inch long range build in the range of 900 grams? N3F Rain. What are some other good ones? Let's, Day at the Range also says they die. That sucks. Excuse me. Let's see here. What would you recommend more, says Astro536, a QX7 or an X-Lite? Because I use an Xbox controller now for the sim, but I'm not sure what radio to get. Astro536 wants to know QX7 or X-Lite. What do you guys think?
Well, honestly, we've done a lot of work with the X7. One of our mentors, actually, he's been using the X7 since the very beginning when he started, and now he even does professional work with it and stuff. We think it's really, really good. It's a really good one to start with. It's very customizable enough for like beginners and stuff like that, or even going into more of the professional field of it. The X-Lite, maybe you know a little bit more on that one, McGregor, but yeah, from what we've seen, the QX7 is a really good one to start with. And it works actually really well in the simulator too, because that's the one we use a lot of the time on the simulator. Yeah, so I believe, as far as I understand, the X-Lite is not going to have as much customization as you could with like the Tyrannus QX7. And honestly, I think that's definitely something you want to look into, is how much can you customize your controller? Because as you get more and more professional and you're doing it more and more, you are going to want to keep adding more features and little things like that that are going to help.
I think what you're saying is the QX7 like just has more switches and controls than the X-Lite, so you'll have more flexibility going forward. Now, how much does it matter if you're used to a game controller? How much does it matter? Should you stick with a game controller like an X-Lite or a TBS Tango?
I mean, I've played a good amount of Xbox, but I use a Tyrannus XD9 or X9D. Yeah. But if you're really used to using a Xbox controller and you like like using your thumbs a lot, going to an X light might not be that big of a jump to get used to. If you want to pinch the sticks, it seems like the X lights are a little bit hard to hold the X light and pinch the sticks. But if you're like flying with thumbs, then it might work really well for you. And it depends on if you want to fly. I mean, if you're flying long range, do all the X lights have the expansion port in the back?
The light module bay?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
So.
And then you've definitely got some upgradability there.
One thing I think that people need to realize is if you're coming from a gaming background, if you try to fly a simulator, if you're used to a controller and you try to fly a simulator with like an Xbox controller, you realize just how imprecise the Xbox controller gimbals are. It's like, why? Because when I like play a video game, they don't feel imprecise, but the controls, you make so much small, fine movements with an RC controller. Whereas when you do a video game, you're not making as precise movements. The games are designed around the controller. And I think you're going to find that even if you really like a controller for video games, you may not like a controller for flying RC. A lot of people do like those games, like the X-Lite or the Tango 2. A lot of people do like them and use them, but don't assume that just because a controller works well for you when you play video games or when you play on the simulator, that you're not going to like a traditional controller like a QX7 or maybe a Radio Master. People in the chat saying if you're looking at the QX7, well, you should be looking at the Radio Master as well. A few other people saying maybe you don't get into the FrSky ecosystem in the first place. We're just going to let that one go. Bloods FPV says real gamers use keyboard and mouse. Do you remember the Rotor Ride episode where we had the NES controller and we flew with an NES controller? One of the other ideas after that was successful was, could we do keyboard and mouse? Could you fly a real quad with keyboard and mouse? I don't know. We haven't done that yet, but
definitely be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. How'd you fly keyboard and mouse, Sir Bounce-A-Lot? How did you actually accomplish that? Like in the sim or in real life? I want to know. Schnoids, thank you for a $30 super chat. That's a huge super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. Thanks for helping this week to get my Transtech Beetle to ARM. I crashed it yesterday and now I'm rebuilding it. That's the way it is. Let me ask you guys, what % of time do you think a person will spend building and repairing versus flying?
So I think starting out, it really depends too, like how much practice you want to put in. So like talking about simulators and stuff, like for me, when I started out, I did not crash my first drone for quite a while. I didn't crash my first flight or anything. I did all my crashing in the simulator starting out. And I just slowly, brought up my skill from there. And I have crashed since, believe it or not. And but I would say depends often on your drone. So obviously, if you're going to build it yourself and you make mistakes or something, then even one crash could throw you off. I've had one drone to where I did a little crash. It wasn't even really a crash. It was just a bump and it skewed off my motor and then I had to repair it. But then other times I've landed from 50 feet up in the air and nothing happened to it. But I would say if you're going to spend, let's say in, a couple hours, 3-4 hours or something building your FPV drone, if you're not pushing yourself beyond your boundaries right in the beginning and you're slowly, gaining up your skills, I don't think you'll be repairing all that often until you really start pushing yourself. And when you do push yourself, you should push yourself first in the simulator. So I think a lot of it can be controlled. My drones don't go to repair a whole lot. I don't have to repair them a whole lot because as I'm pushing my skills, I'm pushing my skills in a logical progression. I know for most people, they want to get out there and they want to rip it and they want to do, everything they can to push themselves. And then those people are going to have definitely a lot more repair time for sure versus fly time. So.
Yeah. Sorry, I was answering some questions in the chat there. This is the advantage of having co-hosts, is I can answer twice as many questions. I can type while you guys. Yeah, I feel like when I think about the ratio, I think maybe 2/3, 1/3 build repair on a good day. You spend 40 minutes building for every 20 minutes of flying. Maybe not, because like you can go out and if you're lucky, you'll fly for a couple hours. But like when we do a rotor ride shoot, and you're really trying to push to get good footage, you're coming home with all your quads are broken every day, and you're just repairing them every day, every night back at the Airbnb. You're just fixing all your quads for a couple hours. So I mean, it's just...
I guess I don't have that problem as often because I just was on a 5-day trip to where we were filming, and we're flying through arches, and because we're in Utah, so we're flying through some crazy stuff, and I didn't crash at all. So I really think it does kind of come to that pushing, like you were saying, like if you're doing the Rotor Riot video and you're pushing, you guys, like diving down roller coaster, in between the metal and stuff like that. Well, then, yeah, you're going to definitely crash some stuff. But I definitely recommend to people. I know some people hate simulators, think they're a waste of time, but as you're pushing yourself, I think there needs to be that logical progression to push yourself further on a simulator. Go in there. And, I didn't start going through race gates until I'd done it on the simulator and crashed many times. And now I can go through the race gates without crashing near as much. So I definitely think when you have the option, you really should be putting that time in the simulator, because that is going to save you a lot of time building, repairing, and it's going to save you money in the long run. That's why we have a simulator.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the simulator can get you to a certain point. I think it can only do so much. I will say that as you get better at FPV, you get better at building and picking. You learn what works, and you break things less, and you get better at knowing when you're pushing hard enough that a crash is inevitable, and when you can dial it back to 80% and probably not crash. And you can kind of decide whether you're going to come home with all your quads or not, mostly. So there's something to that. In case you just joined us, my guests today are Jacob Howard and McGregor Card. They are the creators of the FPV course at fpvunlocked.com. And they think they know a thing or two about FPV. So I said, well, you think you're so smart? You get on my live stream, see if you could make it in the... No.
I don't remember that being the conversation, actually.
No. That's why they're here. If you want to check out, I have a link to my video that I did talking about their course. I'm not affiliated. Well, that's not true. I am literally affiliated because you guys came to me and said, "Do you want to do an announcement about our course?" And I have actually been keeping an eye on you guys for a little while. You guys reached out to me, or maybe Tyler Brennan did, when you first started your course, and I was like, I like this idea. Let's see what they make of it. Because a lot of people have a good idea and then they never manage to actually execute. But you guys have done a really good job with a really, really cool course. I'm a little bit jealous, I do confess, that you did it. I've wanted to do it for a long time, but just never had time. And so now we're telling everybody about it. If you're the kind of person who likes to just search on YouTube, fast forward to the middle of the video, find the one thing you need, and then just leave, don't buy this course. This is not for you. If you're the kind of person who, listen, old people, I'm getting there. I know the feeling when you're just like, can someone please just tell me what I need to know and just put it all in order and let me just read it. Yeah, that's what this course is for. So, let's take some more questions here. I tried putting VCC, Hate Eternal Maver asks, I tried putting VCC for my PDB to the RSSI pad on the FC that I remapped to BAT ADC. Why did it burn my STM32? That almost rhymes.
That's
I tried
unbelievable.
putting VCC from my PDB to the RSSI pad on the FC that I remapped to BAT ADC. Why did it burn? My STM32 doesn't rhyme. The last one doesn't rhyme. Okay, now I have to actually think about the question. To the RS, why did you put? You can no, Hate Eternal Maver, you can't do that. You can't remap VBAT. You can't remap VBAT. You could only remap signal pads.
Yep.
You can't remap where the voltage goes. It doesn't work like that. Don't ever put VBAT anywhere where it's not supposed to go. You cannot remap. BAT ADC resource is a sensor. It's a sensor. It's a VBAT sensor. You also can't remap that. I'm so sorry that you did that. Let me make sure I'm gonna miss some super chats because I started going back and then I got interrupted myself. Crumta, thank you for a $10 super chat. Love your content. With Betaflight 4.2 and up, you mentioned increasing or decreasing the frequency limit when tuning for noise above or below a 5-inch. Have you been able to test enough to find a limit? Crumta, it's not rocket science there. The guidelines from the Betaflight devs are 350 hertz for a 5-inch, 700 hertz for like a 3-inch and smaller, and that's basically it. Thank you, Crumta, for another $10 donation as well. Acro Cheese FPV, thanks for a $5 donation. I'm having an issue where my 4S and 6S batteries are giving me about 2 to 3 minute flights instead of at least 4 minute flights. What am I doing wrong? Let me throw that to you guys. Jacob, McGregor, batteries giving 2 to 3 minute flights. Where does your mind go on this?
It seems like that's a lot of power that's going somewhere where it's not supposed to.
And what kind of battery was it again? I'm trying to find it.
It just says 4S and 6S batteries are giving me approximately 2 to 3 minutes of flight. So I agree. We need more information here. What information do we need to actually be able to answer this question?
Yeah, is it a 3-inch drone, 5-inch drone?
Yeah.
What's your battery capacity?
And Absolutely. I would say also battery brand as well, because we had some, we test out different like cheaper ones and stuff on Amazon, and we had some where it was like, you know, it would work great one day, would have 6 minute flight time, and then other times we'd plug it in, we'd take off and it's like low battery, you know. So definitely how you're flying as well is definitely gonna make a big difference. So yeah, I definitely say we need some more information. Yeah, because like some people are saying 2 to 3 minutes can be normal, you know, in some situations based on how you're flying. You know? The first question I would wonder is, did you used to get 4 minutes and now you're suddenly getting 2 or 3 minutes? Yeah. Or are you just kind of expecting to get 4 minutes because that's what you think you should get? Where would your mind go if you suddenly saw a decrease in flight time? Let's say you've got some packs, you've been flying, you normally get 5 minutes, now you're suddenly getting like 2 or 3 minutes.
I would definitely check and see whether the battery is got a bad cell or if there's any damage to the battery. Definitely.
Yep, battery's just getting worn out, especially if you're doing parallel charge, because you might say, well, why would all my batteries go bad at the same time? If you're doing parallel charging, then if one battery goes bad, it'll kill all the other ones. Yep. So that's one of the risks of parallel charging. Yeah. If it's somebody who has just started flying and it's like a new build, then like what kind of things can lead to short flight time?
If you got a short to the frame somewhere where it's dumping current like through the frame, through the carbon fiber, that's definitely something you need to watch out for. You want to check your motor temps. If you've got a motor that's heating up, you could have like screws touching some of the coils in the motor.
Yeah, Doghouse in the Discord has going the same direction. Yeah. He says, look for what part of the frame is hot.
Yeah.
If you have a short circuit through the frame or somewhere else, some part of the frame will like your motor screws will be super hot, and you're just losing energy through the frame. That's definitely a direction you could go. Maybe your quad is just too freaking heavy. One of the first questions I ask when people say their flight time is short is, what's your all-up weight? What motors, props, and all-up weight. Those are the three things, the primary things that affect flight time. If you have super big motors, super aggressive props, and you're super heavy, you're going to get very short flight time. Up tilt is another thing that can affect flight time.
Yeah.
So let's see here. So, news. People are talking about Ghost. Immersion RC Ghost. When is it going to ship? Immersion RC said they finally actually shipped to their first. We talked about this last week, I think. Or they've shipped. Race Day Quads and Pyrodrone are the first vendors who are in line to get the Ghost. If you have an order from Race Day Quads and Pyrodrone, it should be maybe this week. But like for real this time, it has left Immersion RC and is on the way to the stores. So Ghost will be coming soon. Priya Bharata Saha, thank you for 40 rupees. You're the best. Oh, thank you. It's super nice when people pay me money and tell me I'm the best. Usually I have to pay them money to tell me I'm the best. Brad Spicer, thanks for $5 in the super chat. Bi-directional DSHOT, JESC, no second tone after enabling in Betaflight 423. No second tone. So, Brad Spicer, I need more information. Do you hear doo-doo-doot? Or do you hear doo-doo-doot, doot? Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
No second tone after enabling. Motors work fine when unchecked. JESC is licensed and telemetry installed. I'm going to guess he is not hearing. He's hearing the doo-doo-doot, but not the doo-doot. What does that, where does your mind go on that one?
First thing I would check is the connection between the flight controller and the ESC.
Now, he says it does work if he unchecks bidirectional.
Oh. I would say it might depend on what ESCs he's using. Some ESCs might not use the right protocols or whatever.
Yeah. He says JESC is licensed and telemetry installed. One of the common mistakes people make is that they will license JESC, but they won't actually install the telemetry.
Yeah.
But he says he's done that. Try lowering, this is a suggestion from the chat, try lowering your DSHOT from maybe 600 to 300 or 300 to 150. Make sure that you know, you check your motor protocol, I think is where I would go. And turn down the DSHOT speed. Let's see here. What else have we got? Jan Grudnicki, thank you for $2 Canadian. Why are some motors notchy, and does it matter? You guys want to take that one?
I'd say it depends on the motor construction. If it has really strong neodymium magnets, could be the space between the stator and the rotor.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it really matters a whole lot.
Aaron Ciotti has argued that especially for small motors, that the notchier motors have more. They're like, if you think about like a Brother Hobby 1407, super powerful racing motors, super notchy, and it's the really strong magnets that do that.
Yeah.
But Ciotti says notchy motors cause crappy video. That's exactly right. It starts. I think for the bigger motors, there's not as much of a difference. But maybe for the smaller motors, you'll get worse video, more vibrations and stuff. FPV at all, stop shouting at me. Stop shouting at me. It's not good, dude. EV300O, I'm so excited to tell you about EV300O. They're in the mail, tracking. I've received tracking. They will get here and I'll review them, but I can't tell you anything until they get here. So Jan Grudnicki, motors are notchy primarily because of the magnet strength and the air gap. Smaller air gap makes it more notchy. It doesn't matter as much for big motors, but in general, notchier motors are less smooth and more powerful. So that's what I would say. Acrocheese FPV, thank you for $10 in the super chat. My drone weight is 630 grams. That's pretty light. For a freestyle drone, that's pretty light. T-Motor Pacer 1850 kV. Velox ESC. Is the Velox a BL Heli 32 or BL? He says he's running JESC, so it must be a BL Heli S. Oh no, sorry, my bad. We're talking about the short flight time. 630 grams. 1850 kV on 6S. That's a little high kV, but not crazy. Ovonic 1300 6S. You're at 630 grams with a 1300 milliamp hour 6S. That's a big ass battery. The frame wasn't hot. Screws are short. The next question I go to, Axter Cheese, is what is your stop voltage? Especially if you're new to the hobby, and I don't know if you are or not, but especially if you're new to the hobby, a lot of times people will stop flying at 3.8 volts. And you actually really want to fly your battery down to 3.5, 3.6 volts. 3.8 is the storage voltage, but not the stop voltage. So check that your battery voltage is calibrated correctly. Those are some things we could do. And then the other question that we need the answer to, Acrocheese, and I appreciate your very generous super chats. I will try to keep an eye out for you in the regular chat as well. But have you gotten 4-minute flight times before, or did it suddenly? Have you always gotten 2 minutes, or did they suddenly change? That's the other big question. Doghouse FPV in the Discord wants to know about soft mounting analog cameras. There are some frames that have tried to do that in the past. Doghouse, in my experience, it adds more problems, like with jello and mid-throttle oscillation or whatever. It adds more problems than it solves. I do not think soft mounting an analog camera, is a good idea. That's what I would say. Can I make some build videos in the future? I make a lot of build videos. Let's see. Private Island FPV, thanks for $5 Canadian. If this course existed 3 years ago, I could have been further along than I am now, at least 2 years ago. Great idea, guys, and good luck. There you go. It's the right thing for some people. It's the wrong thing for some people. I was watching the comments on the video I made about the course, and some of the comments were negative. I mean, there's always going to be people for whom your product isn't the right product, you know. And on the internet, they will tell you what they think, unfortunately.
Yep.
But I realized that advertising a course like this on YouTube, which is obviously that's just where I am, of course, most of the people on YouTube are going to be like, why would I buy this? I'm just going to look it up on YouTube. Mm-hmm. But still, there have been a fair number of people who have decided that it's the right thing for them. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I bet you guys get a better conversion rate and better response on like Facebook, where all the old guys are. No offense, old guys. Like I said, I'm 45. I'm coming up on being an old guy. Sometimes I feel like one. And it's just a fact, you know, some people learn a different way than others, and those people are on Facebook.
Very true. Very true. The forums and stuff where people are hanging out to try and get help. So, and that's what we're here, is to help people out.
Yep. And that's why I'm here too. That's right. Mr. Drones FPV, thank you for a $2 super chat. What are the main reasons to have a flyaway as soon as you throttle up? Oh, this is a good one. If I was going to do a job interview to find out, like, what do you know about drones? This would be a question that would be on the list. So, of course, I'm going to throw it to you guys, put you in the hot seat. What are the main reasons to have a flyaway as soon as you throttle up?
I want to start with just a few
okay.
that even I know of. And that's going to be props on the wrong direction. I've seen that happen so many different times, that the props are the wrong way, that they're not coming in towards the camera, they're not coming out depending on your setup. Resourcing motors, we've been seeing that a lot as well, especially with one of the builds we do, because it comes for some reason with the motors realigned. So you have to go in and resource the motors. And that's a very common thing you got to look at, is your props and motors, because those really are going to control how your drone is flying, in the very physical sense. Obviously, there are more electrical things and different things like that can affect it. But when you're first looking at the physical parts of it, you need to look at, okay, are my motors set up right? Are they spinning the right direction? And are the props correct as well? Yeah. So that's where I would start. And then I'll let McGregor pick it up from there.
I'd also say the orientation of your flight controller. If you mounted a different orientation, you need to go into beta flight and adjust if you turn it like 180 degrees, and you go in
the orientation of like your flight controller, and stuff like gyro,
that. Yeah, the orientation, or also the orientation of your ESC or the wiring itself. But that's a resourcing problem. So
one of the things that stands out to me is that the question says that the drone flies away, and I like to distinguish between scenarios where the quad flips over and scenarios where the quad flies straight up in the air. If the quad flips over, that can be motor mapping wrong, board alignment wrong. But if the quad flies straight up in the air, there's only a few things I think that are likely to cause that, as opposed to flipping over. One of them is, I think, Jacob, the first thing you mentioned, which is that you got your yaw direction wrong. You set your quad to motors out but your quad is actually set to motors in or vice versa. And the quad gets in this yaw oscillation and it just flies straight up in the air. The other thing I think that can make it do that is that you've got excess D-gain or not enough filtering. And people are pointing that out in the chat. If you turn off all your filters, gyro filters, D-term filters, you literally just turn off all your filters, the minute you arm, the quad will just go straight up in the air. Skidoo says it's not going to fly away with props on wrong or board orientation. Yeah, yep. I feel the same way. The key thing to me there is he says it's a flyaway, not a flip over or a freak out. So, yeah, good question, Mr. Jones. That's a really solid question right there. Digital or DIY, thank you for $10 in the super chat. Thanks for answering my question quickly yesterday. I know how hectic the YouTube creator life can be. Thank you so much. Acrocheese FPV in the chat is talking. He's saying that he was getting 4-minute flight times, but now he's only getting 2-minute flight times. But I think it might still be a new build, and he says he may need to check the battery voltage calibration. So definitely. Mr. Drones confirms it goes straight up. Mr. Drones, the number one thing you have to do if it goes straight up in the air is check the motor direction. If it look in the motors tab and see if they're set to props in versus props out. Okay. And that's, people are like, no, the motor direction's right. But it's because they remember that I set all my quads to props out. But then this one, maybe they didn't. So you got to check the diagram. That's the number one thing. Motors being set to 3D mode license to drive, that's a tougher one. If it's in 3D, if the ESC is in 3D mode, but Betaflight isn't, then the ESC won't initialize until you go to mid-throttle. So if your throttle's all the way down, you'll hear doot-a-doot, doot, and then it won't go doot until you go to mid-throttle. After you go to mid-throttle, then if you go throttle down, the motors will push the quad down into the ground, not the other way. So I don't think that 3D mode could do it. At least I don't see how that would be. Let's see here. How do you do a battery calibration? Asked Grumpy FPV. Just get your multimeter out or your battery checker. Check the voltage of the battery, plug it into the quadcopter, look in the OSD or look in the configurator and see what voltage the flight controller is reading. And then in the power and battery tab of the flight controller in Betaflight, raise or lower the scale to adjust the voltage to match what the multimeter says. Battery checkers, cheap battery checkers are often off by a fair amount. They're like close, but you definitely should use a multimeter if at all possible. They're usually accurate enough. Let's see here. More questions coming in. Chris FPV is using a FreeSky RXSR receiver. It's bound to the radio, but no movement in the receiver tab. Chris, this is not a question that we can solve on a live stream. This is going to, because the next question I'm going to ask you is, what flight controller are you using, and can you send me a picture of your wiring? And then I'm going to check your wiring, and then we're going to look at your ports tab, and I'm going to check your ports tab, and we're just going to need to go through it one step at a time. So, Chris, you should email me, joshuabardwell@gmail.com, or message me on Facebook if you prefer, and we will need to go through it. But we unfortunately can't solve that on a live stream. Well, I mean, we could. It just would take forever, and 600 people would be sitting there bored. And we're not going to do that. So, Hate Eternal Maver, be careful recommending changes to Serial RX half duplex and inverted. Is he using F-port? I may have missed that in the chat. If he's not using F-port, the default settings are probably correct. And the problem is people, they get stuck and then they just start randomly changing things and you're not actually moving towards a solution, you're moving away from it. So you want to be careful about that. Let's see here. Bad Manners FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. What is your favorite recommendation for photo and video editing software? So I use Adobe Premiere. Adobe Premiere is expensive and it's a pain in the ass to learn and it has a lot of bugs and crashes a lot. But it is what the vast majority of professionals use. What do you guys use to do your editing? Sony Vegas. No.
No. So we use Premiere Pro, but we also use DaVinci, and that's something that we are going to be teaching in our course as well, is because we want to show people a free software that they can use. And DaVinci is incredible. It is a higher learning curve than Premiere Pro, but if you're starting with it, I don't
Right.
think there's going to be a whole lot of difference.
If you already know Premiere, then Resolve is going to drive you absolutely crazy. If you're starting from zero, it's still hard, but it's actually easier than if you didn't already know Premiere.
Yeah, I've used Premiere for years, and switching over to DaVinci, I kept getting frustrated because I was like, I can do this in 10 seconds over here, and now I have to relearn it, kind of a thing.
I had that exact same experience. I was like,
but
I
it
should
is
give Resolve a try, and then I was like, F this, just forget it.
Yeah, it is a really, really good software. I mean, it's been used on tons of movies, and the free version they give you is just absolutely incredible. It's not near as expensive as Premiere, and it's got great color grading. So if you're really looking to get really, really good stuff, and you're starting out, then I would recommend you jump right on DaVinci, because you're going to save that money, and you're going to save the time just learning it right off the bat. And creating great content from the beginning. If you're used to other editing software, I would jump into like Premiere Pro, stuff like that, because those are really good as well. And then for photo editing, I usually use like Lightroom or Photoshop as well. They have some really good features on there to touch up photos and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, Resolve for sure. The beautiful thing about Resolve is that it's completely free and it's fully functional, and it is every bit as powerful or more powerful than Premiere. There are some features you get if you pay for it, like faster encoding, but the Resolve, the only reason someone might stay away from Resolve as a hobbyist who doesn't want to spend $300 for a Premiere license or whatever, the only reason would be the complexity. If you just don't feel like learning how to use a full editor. Shotcut is another good one. If you're looking for a free one, Shotcut is much simpler to use and much less powerful, but a lot easier to get into and a lot less of a learning curve. So,
yeah, and there's a free version of DaVinci, and there's also a paid version of DaVinci, but the differences aren't all that crazy, especially for probably most FPV pilots who are going to be making just videos for Facebook, YouTube, stuff like that.
There's people out there who say they use Blender. Blender is it's a sort of a Swiss Army knife. Blender is free and it can edit video, but it's such a, you could do 3D rendering, 3D modeling. Blender does so much stuff. I feel it hard. I hesitate to recommend it, especially for beginners, when Resolve is out there and it's free, unless you just already use Blender.
I've used Blender for years, and I wouldn't say jumping into the video editor is really going to be all that much better of a benefit than like jumping into DaVinci or something like that. Blender's incredible, but also DaVinci has a free version, and it does a lot of that stuff that you would need to do, because it has it all in one. You can do your visual effects, you can do your sound editing. Exactly. If you really want to get into it, it's all in one platform. And I honestly wish I had started with DaVinci earlier before I got sucked into Adobe. Yeah. I would have saved a lot of money.
Yes. Yep. I have a Premiere subscription. It's like $650 a year or something. Yeah. And it's like, and I'm so tempted, but then I use Adobe, I use Photoshop, I use a PDF, so I'm just like, okay, I just have to bite the bullet. It doesn't make any sense for me not to use Premiere since I use so many other Adobe programs for other things. That is, let's see, what HitFilm Express is another one that's free and simple and easy to learn. Raindog, I see Raindog saying no love for Blender. I didn't see your comment, Raindog, but I knew somebody was going to mention Blender. I tried to edit on Blender before I got Premiere. I went Blender, then I went Resolve, and Resolve was fine. Back when I was using it 3 years ago, there was a bug in Resolve when you had mixed frame rates on the same timeline and it wasn't working right. Then I moved to Premiere, and now I'm just in the Premiere world. Blender is something. Let's see here. There was something I was gonna. Let's see. What was I gonna? There was another comment I was gonna get. Oh well. FPV at all? Thanks for €2. Do you make your quads waterproof? If yes, how? If you're gonna do that, you're gonna use silicone conformal coating probably. I don't bother with it because I'm lazy, and I just don't fly when it's raining or wet out. But if you're in an area where you're flying in the winter and the chances of crashing in snow are more likely, then conformal coating can save you. Do you guys waterproof your personal rigs?
Yeah, so we do conformal coding and we teach it as well because we like, especially for me, I came from like North Idaho where we could get 6 feet of snow overnight.
Yep.
So, and you still want to go out and fly. So, and yeah, you always have that chance, obviously, of crashing and stuff. I wouldn't say rely on it. You don't want to be relying on conformal
Absolutely.
coding or anything to really waterproof your drone. I'd say splash proof is even a stretch because they're exposed to electronics. You don't want to risk that. But I definitely think depending on your environment, like you said, like for me, I like to go out and like if it's raining just a little bit, just little drizzle. If I'm going out to fly, then I want to fly. So having that peace of mind that at least it's a little conformal coated or something like that, then I definitely would do it. And yeah, once again, it's definitely going to depend on your environment. But we do it for most of our stuff.
Yeah. The thing with conformal is, I mean, it's not so hard to put conformal on. And a lot of my builds, I will like conformal coat the ESC joints or the motor joints. But there are people out there who conformal coat everything. And the big problem is that if you get conformal coating on a plug, if you get it on a button, if you get it on your barometer, where is your barometer? Do you know which of those things is a barometer? Well, there's all kinds of things that if you get it on there, then it screws them up. And I just am like, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to like conformal coat this one joint and then we'll just call it good. But that's just me. Let's see. Bad Manners FPV, thanks for $2 in the super chat. Mr. Drones FPV, thanks for $2. He transferred his guts from one drone to another and had a flyaway. Well, that's interesting, Mr. Drones. If you had a flyaway after transferring the guts, we can assume that your motor direction is correct and all that stuff. Probably your motor position. The best thing I could think of is that the frame had some resonant characteristic that made your filters not be right and you had to fly away. I think I don't feel great about that answer though. Yeah. Let's see here. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't, so we're just going to move on. How to avoid water blobs and droplets on the camera lens while flying, asks Yamin Akhtar Mohammed. I mean, I just don't fly in the rain. I guess you could get something like RainX that lets the water slide off, but yeah.
Something I've found handy is obviously you can't always tell like if it hit your GoPro versus like your camera that you're watching through. But if I do notice that I am starting to fly into a little bit more, I'll try and up the tilt a little bit and do just a little bit of a punch out because that extra air will help just push off those water droplets. And yeah, so that's something I usually do, and it usually works pretty well. Also, having a little bit of rain droplets on your video, depending on your atmosphere, could be actually pretty cool. I have found
Interesting.
that. So.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, if you can't see to fly, then you're in trouble, though.
yes, that is bad. That is bad.
Toxic FPV says, I burned my first flight controller. Second flight controller had a bad camera pad. Then fried the ESC and my 4-in-1 trying to swap motor direction. Toxic FPV, first of all, let me say I sympathize. I feel your pain. This hobby is such a pain in the ass. To have to spend $50, $60 on a flight controller ESC and then burn it, and then you're out more money, and the whole time you just freaking want to fly. Okay, now that we're done hugging, I want to be real with you. There's a common link to all of these things. And I'm not saying that the bad hardware is real, but probably maybe your soldering technique, we need to look at it, or your soldering iron. Because I doubt you got 3 boards that were defective from the factory. If you did, don't buy that brand ever again. But maybe there's something going on with you. So maybe a little bit of time spent with someone who just knows soldering and can tell you maybe something you could be doing better. Sometimes people say, such and such flight controller is terrible. I bought 10 of them and I lifted a pad on every single one. And I'm like, it's not the flight controller, it's you.
We might want to look at something else.
I mean, yeah. So, okay. I say that with love, though. I say it with love. It sucks. Because here's the thing. I'm not bragging. I'm just speaking of fact. After I got my Hakko soldering iron, and I have not lifted a single pad on a single board since I got the Hecko. And the incident that made me get the Hecko was trying to solder to a ground pad on a PDB, and it just wouldn't stick, and it wouldn't stick, and it wouldn't stick, and eventually I burned it out. And then I was like, this soldering iron sucks, and I threw this cheap-ass soldering iron away. I spent... You don't have to spend $80 on a Hecko. A freaking TS100 or the Secure soldering irons. Those things cost $30-40, and they're rock solid. Ever since I got a good soldering iron, I haven't lifted any more pads. And I go through a lot of flight controllers and ESCs. So, yeah. What soldering iron do you guys recommend in your course? Because you guys recommend, they don't just have knowledge, but they got a parts list. You guys recommend, you walk people through a build, you got tools and stuff. What soldering iron do you recommend?
So I'm bringing up our list right now, just so I can correctly say it. But yeah, we have a whole list on like what parts you need to buy if you just want to build the drone, what parts if you just want to get everything kind of a deal. So right now for like beginners starting out for a good budget one, we like the Sequeer SQ A110 industrial grade 110 watt soldering iron. And we've had a lot of people trying that out. We've done it on a bunch of different builds, and we found it does a really good job. And it's a good budget one to kind of start with. Obviously, as you're doing more and more, that may not always be the best option. But we've tested it out on a lot of different builds and soldering tests and stuff, and it's always done a really good job. It's only $34, so we found that one to be pretty good for sure.
Yeah, I agree. That Secure has really impressed me. I think it's really good value. About the only thing I would complain about, and it's the same complaint I have about the TS100, is the ergonomics are not the best for long-term use just because it's so thin. Yeah. But it's portable, and for the price, it's just absolutely worth it. Yeah. Flux is the key to good soldering. That is 100% right. You can solder well without flux, but if you're not already great at soldering, you should be using flux. It stacks the odds in your favor. That is definitely true.
Yeah,
Yeah, flux pen for sure. No clean flux. Yes. Don't buy the acidic flux. No clean.
No organic.
Yeah. Evil Speculator, thanks for €5. Please thank Robert Landrum for being awesome. He is awesome. I don't know why you're paying me $5 to tell him he's awesome. You should pay him $5. He met me over at Reddit, got me into your Patreon. Oh, that Robert, you're bringing people in to my Patreon. Wow. I feel like a elder vampire. My little vampires are going out. Join JP's Patreon. Help me build my first quad. Robert Landrum is awesome. I did a little collab with him. He sent me this quad, and I flew it on my channel. This is a little Vista pick. It's this is the toothpick frame, not the guitar pick from Bloods, but it's a Vista, a little 3-inch Vista, and he has a build video over on his channel. If you want to build this, he has gutted this Vista, not this one. He has the same quad. He's gutted his Vista, pulled all the heat sinks off of it, got it down to like 14 grams or something, really light, and making it fly even better. And I'm going to probably follow along with him. So, yes, Robert Landrum. Mr. Drones FPV, thank you for $2. By the way, I don't have a link to his channel handy, but if you go to my channel and look up my Vista pick video, he's linked in the description. Mr. Drones FPV, thanks for $2. We got you, Mr. Drones. FPV at all, thanks for €2. Got you. Bad Manners FPV, thanks for $2. Got you. Durzo FPV, $2. It's a new body and a new tune. Durzo, by that, I'm going to assume you mean that you started from scratch on the tune with the defaults. I would still go back and double check your motor direction and everything. Like, how could that have changed? Nevertheless, the other thing it could be, I suppose, is a damaged frame. But if your filters and PID sliders are at 1.0 in Betaflight, you shouldn't be having flyaways, period. Yeah. It starts. He says he's had no problems with heat buildup on the Naked Vista. Now, I don't know. Is he in the chat right now? I don't think he is. Let me ask him. Are you running your Naked Vista at full power? I'm going to tag him in the Discord and see if he answers. He said he was doing okay with heat buildup. Obviously, if you plug it in excuse me, and you don't fly, then you're gonna have a problem. But he says, I'm curious. Flow State FPV, thanks for $3 New Zealand dollars and 49 cents. No question, just a super chat. Let's see what we got here in the chat. Let's see. No problem. Noise Boys Garage says, I have no problem with my Naked Vista. People, yeah, Adam Victor, I'm with you. So this is my thing. Adam Victor says, total BS. My Vista gets super hot after 3 minutes stock. So everybody who has a Vista knows that if you plug it in with heat protection turned on, it will immediately throttle. So you turn heat protection off. That's the first thing you got to do. Just turn heat protection off. And that's what Robert Landrum said he was doing. He's turning the thermal protection off. Now, if you turn thermal protection off, the next thing that'll happen is after a little while, it will say, no, seriously, I'm overheating. Stop flying. At that point, eventually it will just shut down. But as long as you fly, it'll be okay. Now, here's the thing. I think what people are saying is that it doesn't get much worse. It already overheats anyway, and you just got to go fly, so it has airflow. So taking the heat sinks off doesn't make it that much worse, I think is what they're saying. Bloods FPV says, I flew Naked Vista Pic for the first time today. First time I ever saw the message, air unit overheating, land soon. Now, Bloods, I have never seen that message in flight, only after I crashed and had to walk to retrieve it. Air unit overheating, land soon. If you saw that in flight, that is an indicator that this guy was having a little trouble. OmniDroid asks, have you ever heard of a smoked flight controller shorting out a laptop and killing the laptop when you plug it in? That should not be possible, OmniDroid. USB ports on laptops are supposed to have current protection. So I feel like that's not the flight controller should not be able to do that. I mean, it shouldn't be possible. Robert Landrum says, I didn't touch the Vista Pic and I didn't have any issues. So you're running, Robert, you're running it at full power and not having issues. And Bloods FPV says, I had crashed. So that air unit overheating, land now, that message only happened after he crashed. So there you go, 25 milliwatts, 2 minutes later. So yeah, the takeaway with the Vista is, if you're going to take all the guts off it, it's going to overheat. But as long as you're flying, you're going to be okay. It's just a question of how fast it overheats when you're not flying. At least that's what it's saying. Jitter says only Apple does protection on USB. I don't think that's true, Jitter. I've definitely had Windows motherboards shut down in USB. You get an error on the USB port and it shuts it down. I mean, I guess this laptop didn't have current protection, at which point if you have a short circuit on the 5-volt rail, you could damage it, but don't do that. Yeah. Brad Spicer, thank you for $5. Transtech Beetle HD 2-inch bidirectional JESC issues narrowed down to only when LED strip enabled. Brad Spicer, I'm so glad. I can't believe this didn't ring a bell for me. The Transtech Beetle flight controller doesn't do bidirectional ESC. But you've just told me a piece of information I didn't know, which is that if you disable LED strip, then it starts working. That's good information for everybody who has a Transtech Beetle and wants to do RPM filtering. Until this very moment, I would have said, sorry, you can't do it. The flight controller doesn't support it. So there you go. But yeah, you just clicked. The Transtech Beetle flight controller doesn't do RPM, doesn't do bidirectional, it just doesn't work. Except apparently when you disable LED strips, so that's nice. Okay. Let's see here. We got a lot of chats coming through. Do the DJI goggles support individual cell voltage in the Betaflight OSD? They didn't used to, but they keep adding new things. Do you guys know the answer? I wouldn't blame you if you didn't.
So the what I've been looking at on mine is it shows like the general. So it'll say 3.4 or 3.5 volts if, for whatever, but I have not seen it to where it's showing individual.
It'll show the average.
Yeah, the average.
You're talking about the average. It will show the average. Yeah, the chat is saying the same thing. They've added average cell voltage. That's good. I use average cell voltage on all my quads because I don't want to think about, is this a 4S, is this a 3S, is this a 6S?
Yep.
I just use average cell voltage on all of them. So
Yeah, and it's fantastic. Their latest update on DJI was incredible.
I actually think they always have supported it, because now that I think about it, they did add a bunch of stuff recently, but I usually do pack voltage in the goggle, just the goggles. They have pack voltage built in, and then I'll do average cell voltage right above that. I think they've supported that since the beginning. So the answer is yes, they do.
Yeah, so I just remembered the flight controller I originally had on it couldn't support enough UARTs for OSD, and so we bought a new one to support it. So that's why I'm only recently seeing it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it does do the average cell.
Yep. Still no warnings though. Says it starts. Yep. No warnings. We wish we could have that. I
do get a red blinking light on mine. I don't know if that's the same one you guys are looking for, but I do get
the DJI goggles, the goggle warning. But I mean, like the Betaflight warnings element. Like,
oh, gotcha.
Yeah, wish they would do that. The Betaflight devs, Bruce, I say the Betaflight devs, I mean Bruce Luck, E-Tracer is his other name. He says, and people keep asking this because there is a custom build of Betaflight that uses the pilot call sign. It takes the warning element out of the OSD and it copies that to the pilot call sign. And the DJI goggle does support showing the pilot call sign. So if you have this custom build of Betaflight, then you can get the warning OSD element just put right there in your goggles, which is kind of a big deal. Because if you think about it, the warning element is just text. So they write the text. And people have said, why doesn't Betaflight support this feature? And this is a case where the Betaflight devs will do what they feel is right, even when it is extremely inconvenient to their users. It's the same thing with VTX tables. VTX tables, when they first came out, added a whole lot of confusion. A whole lot of people just couldn't get smart audio working. And I said, could we do like these three things, which would make it easier and reduce the confusion? And they had a reason why they didn't feel like that was the right thing to do. And they put their foot down and they said, we're not going to do it. And this is another case where there is a way that DJI should have implemented this feature. There is a thing where the flight controller can send the whole OSD over the data link, over the telemetry link, and DJI could just implement that, and then all of the OSD would work, and it would always work forever. As Betaflight releases new versions, DJI wouldn't need to update it or anything because the flight controller would be drawing the OSD on the goggles. And I see why DJI doesn't want this. You ever had the situation where there's a whole bunch of V's on screen because your OSD font is messed up? DJI doesn't want Betaflight to be able to draw a bunch of V's on screen. DJI wants to curate that experience. So the Betaflight devs, here's a case where there is this missing warning element is a big deal. It's a big deal. It's critical troubleshooting information that you need to know and you can't get. And there's a simple solution, but that solution is ideologically inconsistent, and the devs they're just like, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to budge. This DJI needs to be the one to move. They are wrong. And that's just how it's going to be, unless you can build your own version of Betaflight, which has this custom change in it. There you go. Let's see. Thank you, Fabrizio Varelli, for €2. Let's see here. Bloods FPV says, I think there might be a bandwidth limit too, as it's being drawn in the goggles, not at the flight controller. Yeah, Bloods, that's the reason more. So there's a Lua script you can run that uses that same interface to draw the OSD menu. And the problem is that the data rate is extremely low, and except for Crossfire, it basically is too low and too unreliable to work. So that OSD thing that we're talking about, currently, it's only supported over Crossfire and only via a Lua script. But DJI can clearly carry a 50 megabit per second video link. That's a lot of freaking data. So it feels like if anybody could do it, it would be DJI. Just give us 500 kilobits per second or something Give us, 100 kilobits per second, right? I used to frickin' use a 9600 baud modem. So, you should be able to do it, shouldn't you? Anyway, I would think they could do it. Let's see. Let's see here. Is flying a freestyle drone more or less difficult than RC helicopters? Either you guys fly helicopters? I don't fly helis.
My
You
first
fly helis?
RC was a helicopter, and it was super hard. I'd crash a lot, and part of the problem is you fly an RC helicopter, you crash, and it's like you're fixing it for 3 hours. Drones, you usually just pop a new prop on and you're good to go. But yeah, I started out on RC helis years ago, and yeah, it wasn't fun.
It's way easier to learn drones. Everybody I know who does fly helis says every time you crash a heli, minimum $100.
Yeah.
Up to just total the whole thing.
Yep.
And hours of rebuilding the mechanical linkages and the collective, and
Yep.
whereas
Lots
drones
of
you
tuning.
crash. Yeah. So drones are easier to learn, if only because they're more durable. So that's the answer. That's the answer. The final answer. Why is Newbie Drone sending out lead-free solder? Asks. I saw it in the license to drive. It's probably because in Europe they have to. That's my guess. But Newbie Drone is based in the U.S., so Newbie Drone, ship leaded solder, not lead-free, if possible. I totally agree. Lead-free solder is much harder to use. Alistair Turner, thanks for £5. I have a problem with my R9. The sliders move properly. All channels are working, but Betaflight won't arm, as no receiver signal is detected. Something doesn't add up there, Alistair Turner. Actually, I'm going to throw this... Oh, I'm going to throw this one to you guys. There's another challenge question. Get ready. All Betaflight shows arming status flag failsafe, but all channels move in the receiver tab. I'm going to repeat it for the chat while you think about it. In the receiver tab, all the channels move, but Betaflight won't arm, and it shows the arming status flag RX failsafe. Oh, this is a tricky one. This is a tricky one.
I'm not even going to try. I'm out, Alex.
You've done so well for the rest of the stream. Now I'm just going to be mean and give you a tricky one. I only know the answer because it stumped me for like 2 weeks before I figured it out. So
I don't feel so bad now.
I was really impressed.
That sounds like one that would probably stump me as well.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So in the modes tab, there is a failsafe mode. Right?
Yeah.
There's a mode where if you enable the aux mode, it triggers failsafe. And if someone sets that up and then flips the switch, you'll get RX failsafe, but you'll also see your aux channels move.
Gotcha.
It's super. And actually, I misrepresented it a tiny bit. What happens is the first 4 control channels don't move. They're locked at 1500 and 885, as if the receiver was disconnected. But the aux channels still move, which drove me crazy for the longest time. Like, how could you have some channels locked out and some not? Yeah, Ciati FPV says, why would anyone turn that on? There's no good reason to turn that on, Ciati. The only reason I can think of why you might do it is if you are testing failsafe. Like, you want to test GPS rescue, but you don't want to turn your controller off because it takes so long to turn it back on again. So you're going to test GPS rescue, you flip the failsafe mode, the flight controller goes into failsafe, you flip it back, it comes out of failsafe, and you recover. But a lot of, not a lot, some beginners will set that up because they think they need to make failsafe work. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Now, Alistair Turner says, all my channels work. Alistair Turner, if all your channels work, I don't see any way that you could actually have the RX_failsafe flag active. That doesn't seem possible. So I wonder if when you say no receiver signal is detected, you mean something else. What else do you mean? Bad for Life says, isn't GPS rescue also on a mode? That is correct. But sometimes you want GPS rescue to trigger when you fail safe, not just when you flip the mode. So if you wanted to test fail-safe behavior. The thing is, normally the fail-safe behavior is just fall out of the air. And so normally the way you would test fail-safe is you would take your props off. You would arm the quad and you would turn the controller off, and that's how you test fail-safe. But if you needed to test fail-safe in flight, like because you had returned to home, then you might want to do it on a switch. Normally you would never set that up. Bad throttle channel scaling. ZFPV. If bad throttle channel scaling would put you into fail-safe, but the channels would stop moving, I think. This is a tough one. Throttle channel less than 885 will trigger fail-safe. That is true, but all channels would lock out at that point, I believe. I believe all channels would lock out. Maybe what's happening is you are moving the throttle and you see it moving, then you lower the throttle and it goes into fail-safe. Maybe? Let's see. PPM out of range. Yeah, that's what people are suggesting. We'll see if that's true. Sam Burns wants to know, why does turtle mode not work after you disarm in a flip over DJI Air unit? Isn't turtle mode supposed to bypass disarm? No, Sam Burns. In turtle mode, you have to activate turtle mode and then arm. KISS does it the other way, but Betaflight doesn't want you to accidentally arm. So you have to flip turtle mode and arm. John Potts, thanks for £5. Thank you for your email help with my Crossfire question. My flying buddy Neil complains that you never read his questions. Well, John, if he left me super chats, I would read his questions. I mean, I got nothing against Neil, but it's just there's a lot of chats going by. If I see Neil right now, I'll read his question, unless I don't want to. I'm looking for you, Neil. Bike Man Cody, thanks for $5 in the super chat. We missed you at the MultiGP Knox race yesterday. What's up, bro? Yeah, I hear you, Cody. I could have brought you that battery that I'm supposed to have given you. I only get one day off a week. Actually, I get all the days off a week if I want to not actually make videos, but I do want to make videos. I had a good day, though. I had a good day yesterday. Too much pressure at races. Alistair Turner says, when I arm, it's no RX. Then when I raise throttle, it says bad RX and throttle. So bad RX means that the receiver went away and came back with the arming mode activated. So for example, if you power down the flight controller but not the receiver, then the flight controller powers back up. You'll see bad RX and throttle. But are you seeing no RX? No RX, I don't think, is a flag. Are you seeing bad RX? Are you seeing RX underscore failsafe? What's the actual flag you see, Alistair Turner? I'm going to have to email me to Alex. Alistair, I don't think we're going to solve this on this stream. Copter Flight says, this is an interesting one. Copter Flight says, I have a TBS Source 2 on 6S. On the stock PIDs, it's got a little trilling oscillation. If I lower D under 30, it stops doing it. Why is this? I've never experienced stock PIDs not working before. Let me throw this one over to you guys. What do you think of that? Trilling oscillation on stock PIDs.
Oh, let's see. Trilling oscillation.
So he lowers D gain and the trilling oscillation goes away. That is the correct response to trilling oscillation. Yeah. But why might the stock PIDs not be working for him?
I mean, I'd check to see if everything's tight on your frame, if the motors are tight.
Yep. I like that.
A tough one.
Yeah, the vibration, the D gain is amplifying vibration or electrical noise.
Yeah.
So if you have something mechanical about your quad that is causing excess vibration, then that would cause it to seem like your D gain was too high. Yep.
Yep.
I like that. I like that. Maybe excess vibration from the frame. Ciati in the chat says delaminated or broken arm, loose screws. Copter Flight says everything is tight. Uh-oh. I mean, in theory, you could have a frame with some kind of resonance issue or a damaged motor. The Source 2 doesn't typically have resonance issues, though. Yeah. I agree that the stock PIDs should work almost all the time. The other question, good point, Ciati. Is this a new build, or was it not oscillating before and now it is? Because that would definitely point to a physical problem, a damaged motor or something. Yep, these guys are definitely going, that's definitely the right direction. Bad prop? Well, presumably he changed his prop, but hopefully. Mr. Dragon, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Best overpowered and durable motors for a 5-inch quad that weighs 425 grams without motors on 6S. I want an absolute ripper of a motor for a 5-inch quad on 6S. What do you guys think? Got an idea?
I haven't had a lot of experience trying different motors. I'm kind of a budget flyer. So I don't get a lot of opportunity to try the newest, latest, and greatest stuff.
We're still at that point that we haven't got enough of the popularity to get a bunch of the newest stuff to really test out and stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the problems, or one of the challenges with being focused on beginners, is you're focused on all the budget stuff, and you're not necessarily out there just tearing it up.
Yeah, that's the goal for the future, for sure.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, like, think about my 100, quote unquote, 160 mile an hour build. Those are just T-Motor F60, I think, not like special motors. They're great motors, but they're not like, and they're 2,700 kV on 6S. I would just say, get a good quality motor, pick your premium quality motor, any motor, let's say $18 to $27, just pick one. If you really want to blow it out, get the TOA get the TOA motors, the Carrera TOA motors. I mean, if you really want to blow it out. But the key will be to get a good quality motor with a high kV. So get, instead of a 1900 kV, get a 2100 kV or even a 2400 kV. And then your challenge will be preventing the ESC from desyncing and it dropping out of the air. But I think a lot of there's tons of motors out there with the same N52 magnets and more or less the same kV, and they're going to perform more or less the same with slight differences in efficiency or durability. So you're going to want to get like 2150 kV, right? Rain Dog, that's a great suggestion. The problem is there aren't a ton of 2150 kV motors out there because 5S isn't as popular, but get like a F60 2150 kV and run it on 6S and you're just going to go crazy. F80s, sure. I don't feel like bigger motors are necessarily going to be the right way to go, because I think even like a 2207 or a 2208 is going to have plenty of torque to get you to high RPM. But, yeah. That's what I would say, Mr. Dragon. Steve M is suggesting Brother Hobby. Brother Hobby 2306 2000 kV. Yeah, Brother Hobby is well known as a really, really powerful motor. iFlight Cyber Zing 1999 kV. Yeah, I feel like if you just want a quote-unquote absolute ripper, I'd be looking at around 2000 kV. I think that's a good place to be. We are 7 minutes to the end of the stream. Ciati's in the chat talking about drift videos. I stand by my position. Ciati is going to be streaming. If you want to watch his drift videos, he's going to be doing a whole stream today of nothing but drift videos. No, I made that up. Ciati is going to be streaming at 3 p.m. though. At 3 p.m. Just 6 minutes from now, he'll be posting the link to his stream. If you guys want to, can't get enough this afternoon. Why can't you spectate other pilots in DJI 50 megabit per second mode? Asks OmniDroid. They just haven't built it in yet. I don't know what the technical reason might be. Gonna have a better answer than that. Ramon Garciano asks, with all the fine tuning you do, you don't focus on the CG of the battery? Why? It's the heaviest item on a quad. Why don't you focus on CG? What do you guys think about CG? How important is CG? When you do a build, do you try to get the CG exactly right, or do you not worry about it too much?
I used to fly a lot of Delta Wings for FPV and combat and stuff, and you definitely have to have the proper CG on airplanes. Quads, on the other hand, the only thing I've really noticed, if you don't have your CG good, is the back motors will heat up, or the front motors will get warmer than the rear. As far as balance, you definitely want to try to get CG or the battery balanced. But a lot of times, if you're running a GoPro, depending on how big a battery you have, it's really hard to get the CG correct. And mounting the battery on top or on the bottom definitely changes the CG dramatically. But just the way the quad frames are, it's kind of impossible to get the CG perfect.
Yeah, that's to me, that's the big one. Is it better to have a centered CG? Sure.
Yeah.
Is it possible to perfectly center the CG? I mean, look at your quad. How far forward or back can you move the battery? Like 1 centimeter? Like not that far. So you just have limited options. Some people feel like toilet tank, sideways mounting the battery gives you a little more flexibility. I think it just changes the problem in some ways, from pitch to roll axis. And the big thing is the PID controller can compensate for an off-center CG to a large degree, but having an off-center CG makes like the back motors work harder than the front motors and limits your top-end power. For the most part, though, I think the big limitation is, like you said, you just have limited ability to adjust the CG, so you just deal with what you've got. That's what I would say. There's a super chat here from Hansa Bartonicek, I think. Some streams ago, you mentioned possible rumors of a multi-protocol TBS Tango 2. Any news on that? Yeah, in fact, I left this on my desk as a little bit of a Easter egg. But right behind me on the desk, there's a Tango 2. There's a V3 main board, which has 2.4 gigahertz multi-protocol module support. And there's a TBS multi-protocol module, which no one but me has, and TBS. Somehow, I had my hands on this before everybody else. So I'll be making a video about that. The Tango 2 looks massive because I have it propped up on its antenna. 2 minutes to the end of the stream. Aaron Ciotti is going to start sliding. He's talking about sliding his battery forward and back. Oh no! Obviously, the TBS internal testers have it. Duh. I'm not a TBS tester though. Maybe someday. Aaron Ciotti is going to be starting his stream in just about 2 minutes. Ciotti, you can start posting that link if you would. I want to thank you guys for coming on, Jacob Howard and McGregor Card, the creators of the course FPV Unlocked. There's a link, fpvunlocked.com/JB. And if you click that link, guess what? I do get an affiliate. But definitely check that out. If you think that a course about FPV might be more your speed instead of randomly searching YouTube videos, I'm really impressed with what you guys have done. You guys are good instructors. You guys are very knowledgeable. And I'm just, the way you've organized the information, that's I get such a thrill, and this is going to sound weird, but it's true. As a teacher, an instructor, a courseware developer, I get such a thrill out of seeing somebody take a domain of information and organize it into the right order for people to understand it well. And you guys have definitely done that. So thank you for coming on the stream.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us here.
For sure. For sure. We are going to finish up. Ron Grant, thank you for a $5 super chat. Have I ever sat in a drift car on a ride along? I have not. So, Ron Grant, I got you, Ron. I got you. You guys are playing with fire, leaving super chats right at the end of the stream. Because if you leave one and I'm going off the air, I'm just going to, not going to get it. Does the FPV Unlocked course have a highly detailed list of acronyms and names of parts so people know what to search for when stuck? Ask License to Drive. Does it? You guys got a FPV Bible or glossary?
So as far as a written version, we're working on that now. But our whole module 1 is talking about that kind of stuff. So you go into like the VTX and you're going to learn all the terms that you really need to know about the VTX and things that you can look for. So our whole first module, which is over, I think, almost 3 hours of content right there, is going to give you that information. But we're also working on a written version as well.
Extremely valuable. All right, guys, it is 3 p.m. That is it for me. I will be streaming again Monday, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Ciati has posted a link to his stream. He is going to be streaming some more. Finishing Joshua Bardwell's Ciati FPV 5-inch glide. What is that? I don't know. You're going to have to click on his stream to find out. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Thanks to all the patrons in the Discord for the great chat and for, of course, being my patrons. If you want to be my patron and join them in the Discord, you can do that at the link in the video description. Thanks to everybody who left a super chat. And happy flying, y'all. All right.